For the next 2 hours to talk the economy and politics, Senator Pat Toomey, a member of the Budget, Banking, Commerce, and Joint Economic Committee, who is also on the Deficit Super Committee. Last week we had Senator Portman on, who was also on that, and we got an insight into some of the things that happened and how the sort of the fallback mechanism, while it guaranteed that we'll get something done, it might have doomed the whole process, because you knew that you could always fall back on that.
Yeah.
That was what we sort of decided with Senator Portman last week. Or one of the
I think what we discovered was there was a real asymmetry in incentives.
Yeah.
On the Republican side, we all badly wanted a deal. I can tell you, every single day in the first year I've spent in the Senate, every time Republicans get together, the discussion about our deficit and our debt is front and center.
Yeah. I wasn't going to try and make it a Democratic-Republican
thing. No, but I mean,
it's just
that's
that you did have the fallback mechanism that both sides could point to afterwards.
Except that one side really didn't want that, and the other side, I think, didn't mind it so much.
If we had someone from, if we had a Democrat, I would be saying the opposite thing. What do you make of this infighting that we've seen with the Republican nominees? As a Republican, is it different than previous
here's what my reaction is, and I haven't made an endorsement in this race, but I got to tell you, I'm appalled at what Newt Gingrich is doing. I'm appalled. I'm shocked. He has adopted the language of the left that is attacking capitalism. I think we're in an election cycle in which free enterprise itself is very much on trial, because we have an administration that wants to move us to a very different model than the democratic capitalism that has been the source of our enormous success. And these attacks, I think, go to the heart of that. It mischaracterizes the role of private equity. The fact is, you don't become a huge, enormously successful private equity firm unless you figure out a way to grow companies. You know, there's just no question about it. Of course, there are going to be some that are going to fail. But this is part of the American system, and the beauty of our system is that we have found a way to consistently create far more jobs than are being lost because we have a dynamic system. You know, having flexible and dynamic capital markets are a big part of that.
I've seen that I did see a couple of the super PAC ads that they hit Gingrich with, and he got really angry about that. And I guess it talked
especially in Iowa.
Especially in Iowa, and some of the things that were used probably were below the belt and personal. But I just wondered, would that allow him now to say things that he knows are untrue about capitalism?
You know, I don't know the motivation. Obviously, you can see he's been very angry about what happened in Iowa. And by the way, I think Governor Romney's record as governor of Massachusetts is completely fair game. The position that he's taken on policy, all fair game. But this is a time to be defending a free enterprise system that's created more opportunity, more wealth, elevated a standard of living, and frankly is the only system consistent with personal freedom, and therefore occupies a moral plane that's higher than any of the other systems.
That's the case that's made in the... and I've made that case again.
That's what we ought to be arguing.
Because capitalism itself is amoral. It doesn't go one way or the other. But the end result, which progressives never really look at the outcome, they look at the intention. The end result is the most moral.
If you look at the business
I would
model,
make a slightly different...
Capitalism was a business model. If capitalism was a business model, and you alluded to this in private equity, failure is in the business model.
Absolutely.
You know, in private equity, you know that if you can get 6 out of 10 deals that actually make money and 4 out of 10 fail miserably, the business model works. And that's the message that has to get out there.
That's exactly right. And a system that we have of free enterprise and democratic capitalism is this continuous discovery of new products and new services and better ways to deliver the existing ones. And to the extent that the private equity comes in and helps to fund the capital, you know, in Pennsylvania, we've got a huge and thriving sector of life science companies, for instance, growing. I mean, so much experimentation, fascinating new breakthroughs. Most of them fail. And after they've consumed what little angel funding they can get to get started, they very often get private equity money that comes in, and that helps them grow. Can I say one last thing? I predict this is all going to fail as an attack against Governor Romney. And again, I'm not endorsing anybody here, but this is very reminiscent.
The focus on private equity.
The attack on capitalism, and specifically through the vehicle of his role in private equity, is very reminiscent of my Senate campaign of last year, 2010, because I had worked on Wall Street in the derivatives business in the 80s. Now, what was more toxic than derivatives? That's a much worse word than private equity. And they spent millions attacking me daily, personally blaming me for the financial crisis because of my role. And it didn't work.
I've called it a red herring all along, because if Romney, we're trying to figure out if he's a guy that can come in here in this sort of despondent state that the country is in right now, and almost akin to Ronald Reagan, because he's running on the same kind of things. And I feel a lot of similarities. I was around back then. I remember the way that I thought you'd never buy another house. I thought interest rates would never. I mean, it was a very despondent time in the country where we had lost our way, and you wondered whether America could ever come back. So the real question is whether from here on out he can do good things. Not. I mean, if he ran Bain really well, he's an operator. If he did the Salt Lake City Olympics really well, he's an operator. He's a guy that knows what he's doing. He was a governor in Massachusetts. Looking back at whether you were somehow doing something, I don't even, what is the argument about Bain? That you were greedy or something? Or you're Gordon Gekko?
The only question I have is...
But it's what he does from here, isn't it? No?
I agree. I agree.
It's a red herring.
The only thing I wonder
At least he has some experience in business. He's done something.
Steve.
No, I just have a lot of questions, Joe, about you supporting Romney with his history in Massachusetts. I mean, you were so against Obamacare.
I still am, and I'm sure that.
And you're okay with that?
If the states figure out a way to,
if the states want to do it,
we want to get to the same place, Steve. We want to cover everyone. We want to give health care to everyone. We want to get to it in a more free market-oriented way. And if the states find a way to do it,
in Massachusetts, though, right?
If the states find a way to do it,
it was a government mandate.
Right.
Steve, a hole in your argument. I just have one question,
yes,
Gary. I have one question. The extent to which private equity is about financial engineering is the only thing that really bugs me about it. Is the extent to which you go in there, you take over a company that doesn't have a lot of debt, you load it up with debt, you make it look pretty, you go out and sell it to the public. I mean, I'm not sure that's a plus or a minus.
I don't want to be the defender of private equity, Steve. I don't want to be.
But you are. You have been.
No, but I don't.
You've been out on a limb there.
No.
Waving the private equity flag in this game.
No. I've just been giving the facts. I've been just laying out the facts.
Right.
And I will answer that question.
You must acknowledge.
I will answer that question with the facts.
Financial engineering aspect.
If in fact private equity buys a company, loads it up with leverage, and doesn't make the company more efficient, then they try to take it to the public markets and they try to do it in an IPO, reverse LBO. Then guess what? Shame on the institutional investors who buy that piece of crap on the IPO.
They buy it anyway.
Yeah,
Why?
Now that
and then it goes bankrupt afterwards.
No, but that's not what the data shows.
But
that assumes that the market's irrational. The only smart guys are the PE guys. That's not true. They've got to add some value.
It seems like they're smarter than the pension guys. That's what it seems to be. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. And I'm asking a question that I don't have an answer to.
Yeah. No, but I think there's two points that need to be made. One is a distinction between what the big private equity firms like Bain and Carlyle and KKR and Blackstone do and what some of the smaller, scrappier firms do, which is to say that I think that the distinction is that Bain and Carlyle and the bigger firms are going after solid businesses, and sometimes they put too much debt on them, but for the most part, they're actually trying to improve the businesses, and on a percentage basis, they're not going bankrupt. I think what you're looking at in terms of the sort of Gordon Gekko-esque view of private equity is the smaller firms like Sun Capital and Gores that like to go after companies that are really in trouble and hurt and therefore end up in part going bankrupt because, by the way, they might already be on their way. And as a result, these guys jump into this situation and they take their best shot. And if they get there, they get there. And if they don't, they don't.
Andrew, importantly, because Steve and I had this conversation off camera, in those situations, what private equity tries to do, and I think you know this, they'll try to find other companies to put together with those businesses, try to get the efficiencies of scale. They are many times, these are manufacturing businesses in the United States that have not been able to compete with their Chinese counterparts. And what private equity has attempted to do here is find the efficiencies. And both this, Steve, I have to read this to you. This is from a viewer email. Very important. Just a quick point I'd like to mention. I manage a nonprofit, and without the generous donation of profits derived from capitalism, i.e. private equity, our mission would not be able to survive.
No doubt. No doubt. The point I made earlier was that let's not confuse the pursuit of profit with patriotism.
I don't understand that whole That's a very strange.
The idea,
like a straw man.
People are going out for profits, right? It doesn't mean that they're going out for the benefit of the country. People who work at non-profits are the people who are working for the benefit of the country. People who are working at charities are going out for the benefit of the country. If you're going out and doing your business and you're getting paid for it, I was taught you give of your substance, not your excess, and that's real giving.
Steve, but the point is these pension funds need the return, right? What you don't hear, where are the pension funds in America coming out either against Romney or for Romney? Actually, you're not hearing that much from them because I think politically right now they can't say anything, but ultimately, you know, they're voting with their wallet, and their wallet says